Hey there, fellow wine explorers. Today, we're finally uncorking the mysteries of Alvarinho.
Ooh, Alvarinho.
We've got a stack of articles and tasting notes here all about this fascinating grape, and I am itching to dive in. Especially since, full disclosure, my knowledge pretty much begins and ends with goes great with seafood.
And that's a great place to start.
Mhm.
But what's fascinating about Alvarinho is that it's so much more than just a one-note wonder. We're going to uncover why this grape is causing such a stir in the wine world.
Okay, let's uncork this knowledge then. First things first, where does Alvarinho even come from?
The age-old question that sparks some playful rivalry between Portugal and Spain.
Oh, I can already sense some drama.
A little bit. You see, while both countries wholeheartedly embrace this white grape, its exact birthplace is still a bit of a delicious mystery.
So it's like a grape custody battle.
In a sense. But honestly, it's a testament to how special this grape is that both countries want to claim it. The most popular theory is that Cistercian monks brought Alvarinho to the Minho region of Portugal.
Monks and wine.
You know it. Think Vinho Verde country, back in the 12th century. And it likely traveled from there to the Galicia region of Spain.
Monks, mystery, and migrating grapes. This is already more exciting than my history textbook.
Right, but here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just some fun fact. Where Alvarinho grows dramatically impacts the style of wine it produces.
Okay, so it's not a case of you've tasted one Alvarinho, you've tasted them all.
Not at all. Let's start with Portugal. In the Monzón and Melgaço subregion, nestled within Vinho Verde Alvarinho, takes on this elegant, almost salty personality.
Salty. Are we talking pretzels and potato chips here?
Not quite. We're talking about this intriguing characteristic called minerality. Imagine a sea breeze hitting your face, maybe with a hint of wet stone. That's the kind of flavor profile these Portuguese Alvarinhos are known for.
Wow, that's way more complex than just tastes good with fish. So we've got elegant and salty in Portugal. What about across the border in Spain?
Well, in Rías Baixas, where the Atlantic Ocean plays a huge role in the climate, think cool, misty mornings, you get Alvarinhos known for their delicate floral aromas and a certain finesse.
So same grape, totally different vibes depending on its passport. That's wild.
Exactly. And here's a key takeaway from you. The unique combination of climate and soil in each region is like Alvarinho's fingerprint. It leaves its mark on every bottle.
This is already blowing my mind, and we're just getting started. From what I've read, it seems like Alvarinho isn't just influenced by where it's grown, but also how it's made.
You're absolutely right. Climate and soil are crucial, but winemaking techniques add a whole other layer of complexity. That's what we'll unpack next, because saying Alvarinho can be light and zesty or complex and oak-aged, well, that's quite a spectrum.
Okay, so you're saying there's a whole world of Alvarinho beyond my usual pour and enjoy approach.
Absolutely. Think of it like this. You have your young and vibrant Alvarinhos bursting with fresh citrus fruits, lemons, limes, grapefruits, your ultimate summer sippers, perfect for a picnic or alongside seafood.
Okay, see those tasting notes I get? Actual recognizable fruits. But what about those other descriptions you see on wine labels? Things like floral hints of honeysuckle or subtle minerality. How am I supposed to decipher all of that?
Ah, yes, wine jargon. It can definitely feel like its own language sometimes. But those terms actually point to real aromas and flavors you could experience in the glass. With Alvarinho, for example, the floral notes can range from delicate jasmine and orange blossom to, and this is where it gets even more interesting, hints of laurel, almost like a bay leaf.
Hold on, bay leaf, like the stuff I put in my soup.
The very same. You'll often find these herbal notes in Alvarinhos that have a bit of bottle age.
So the longer it sits around, the more herbal it gets. That's pretty cool. What else changes as Alvarinho ages?
Well, for one, the color can deepen from a pale lemon to a beautiful golden hue. And the flavor profile becomes more complex. Think dried apricot honey, even a touch of beeswax.
Okay, you're making me want to go on an Alvarinho aging experiment immediately. But before I start hoarding wine in my pantry, are there any particular producers who are really pushing the boundaries of what Alvarinho can be?
You've clearly done your homework, because you're right on to something there. We can't talk about Alvarinho innovators without mentioning Anselmo Mendes, often called the King of Alvarinho. He's known for his use of indigenous yeasts. Those are naturally occurring yeasts found in the vineyard, and his experimentation with oak aging.
So he's like the mad scientist of Alvarinho, in a good way, of course.
Exactly. Mendes believes in minimal intervention, letting the terroir speak for itself. But he's also not afraid to experiment, pushing the boundaries of what Alvarinho can be. Take his Contacto wine, for instance. The juice stays in contact with the grape skins for an extended period, a technique that adds texture and complexity. It results in a richer, more savory style of Alvarinho.
Contacto. Adding that to my list.
Uh,
Now, speaking of pushing boundaries, our research mentioned that Alvarinho is popping up in some unexpected places. It's not just a Portugal and Spain party anymore, is it?
you're right. We're witnessing a surge of interest in Alvarinho from winemakers all over the globe, places like California, Oregon, Brazil, Uruguay. They're all starting to produce their own expressions of this versatile grape.
Wow, it's like Alvarinho is having its moment in the sun. But what's driving this trend? Why are winemakers outside of Iberia suddenly so keen on this grape?
Well, for one, Alvarinho is surprisingly adaptable. It can thrive in a variety of climates as long as there's good sunlight and drainage.
So, not exactly a desert grape, but it can handle a little heat.
Precisely. And its versatility extends to the winery too. As we've discussed, Alvarinho can be crafted into a range of styles, from crisp and refreshing to complex and age-worthy. Winemakers love a good challenge, and Alvarinho definitely gives them a lot to work with.
It's like the blank canvas of the wine world. So, for those of us who haven't quite reached sommelier status, what are some key things to look for when choosing an Alvarinho? Where do we even begin?
A great question with a surprisingly simple answer. Start with what you enjoy. If you tend towards lighter-bodied whites with that bright acidity we talked about, then look for a Vinho Verde from Monção and Melgaço.
Those are the ones with that awesome minerality we were talking about, like a salty sea breeze.
Exactly.
Mm.
If you prefer something a bit richer and more aromatic, an Albarino from Rias Baixas might be more your style.
And if we're feeling adventurous and want to try something a bit different,
Don't be afraid to explore Alvarinos from those up-and-coming regions we mentioned. They might surprise you. Look for smaller producers who are passionate about showcasing the unique terroir of their region. You never know, you might just discover your new favorite wine.
this is all great info. But now that we've covered the what and the where of Alvarinho, let's not forget the most important part, at least for those of us who aren't just admiring the labels. How do you actually enjoy it? What's a good pairing for this intriguing wine? So we've talked about how food-friendly Alvarinho is, and our sources really highlight its affinity for, no surprise, seafood.
White seafood.
But is it just a one-trick pony? Can it handle anything beyond a plate of oysters?
While Alvarinho and fresh seafood are practically a match made in culinary heaven, this grape is way more versatile than many people realize. It all goes back to that vibrant acidity we discussed. That zippiness is what makes it such a great pairing for a surprising range of cuisines.
So it's like the ultimate palate cleanser, cutting through rich flavors, taming spice.
Exactly. Imagine pairing Alvarinho with something like a spicy Thai curry. The wine's acidity balances the heat beautifully, while its citrus and floral notes complement those aromatic spices.
See, that's a pairing I never would have thought of. What about something a little closer to home? Maybe some grilled chicken or a simple pasta dish?
Alvarinho can handle those too. Its
Right.
herbal undertones, especially in those slightly aged bottles, work beautifully with grilled chicken or pork. And for pasta, think lighter sauces, maybe a lemon garlic sauce with shrimp or a fresh tomato sauce with herbs.
Okay, now you're definitely speaking my language. This is making me hungry, but it's also great to know Alvarinho really does have a lot more to offer beyond the usual seafood suspects. Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into all things Alvarinho, there's one more aspect our sources touched on that I find really intriguing, this whole idea of sustainability in the wine world.
Right, sustainability. This is something we're seeing more and more in the wine world as a whole, a focus on organic and biodynamic practices.
And it sounds like Alvarinho is particularly well suited for this approach.
It really is. Because it's such a terroir-driven grape, meaning the final wine reflects the environment where those grapes are grown. Producers are recognizing the importance of taking care of the land. Many are moving away from pesticides and herbicides, opting instead for natural fertilizers and cover crops to promote biodiversity in the vineyard. They're realizing that healthy land equals exceptional wine.
So it's not just about making delicious Alvarinho today, it's about ensuring that deliciousness for generations to come.
Precisely. And this focus on sustainability isn't just good for the environment. It's often reflected in the wine itself. Organically and biodynamically farmed, Alvarinos frequently possess a vibrancy, a purity of flavor that's truly remarkable.
This whole deep dive has been eye-opening. We've gone from a simple question, what's so special about Alvarinho, to uncovering a whole world of history, geography, flavor profiles, and even philosophy.
That's the beauty of a deep dive, isn't it? You never know where curiosity will lead you.
Absolutely. So as we uncork this final thought for our listeners, what's something you'd like them to ponder as they perhaps sip a glass of Alvarinho?
Here's a question to consider. As Alvarino's popularity continues to rise, can it maintain its unique character? Can smaller producers preserve their traditional methods, or will mass production change the face of this remarkable grape?
That's something to sip on indeed. So, to our listeners, next time you see a bottle of Alvarinho, remember that you're holding more than just a wine. You're holding a piece of history, a celebration of terroir, and perhaps even a glimpse into a more sustainable future. Cheers to that.